ladies and gentlemen, the next couple OTRS Central Q and A's are going to be
marvelous.
I think so. Whether you like it or not, you're going to get it.
That's right.
Thank you. Now, if you want your questions answered by us here at OTRS Central, all you have to do is go on Twitter and submit your questions to us at our Twitter handle, which is @OffTheRopeShow. Keep in mind that we record a few of these at a time, so if you are going on Twitter to submit a question after watching this Q&A, which is number 8, and it's maybe Q&A 9, 10, 11, and your question has been answered yet, that is okay. It doesn't mean that it's not going to be answered. It's just there will be a little bit of a delay, so keep that in mind. You ready to get started, Mark?
I'm ready to go.
Alrighty. First question, @Air458 asks, thoughts on Edge coming to Waterloo? For those of you that don't know, Edge is the Luthez Award winner for the 2013 George Tragos Luthez Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame weekend here in Waterloo, Iowa, July 12th and 13th, I believe are the dates. It's going to be fun, along with the Nature Boy. Woo! So your thoughts on Edge being here in Waterloo?
I'm looking forward to meeting him as long as he shows up. I'm more than down with it.
As long as he doesn't pull a Kurt Angle. Now, we know one member of OTRS that is really looking forward to meeting him, and not for the standpoint of wanting to actually talk to Adam Copeland about, Edge and the Edge character and his career. He wants to talk about Christian.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. @Ghost HPM, he's going to love that. At Elimination Chamber, we'll have ADR versus Big Show and a #1 contender chamber match. What might be the World Heavyweight Championship title match at WrestleMania 29?
Well, I think Dolph Ziggler is going to cash in Money in the Bank at Elimination Chamber, so I think it's going to be him against... I don't know who it's going to be against yet, but
Take a guess.
I'm thinking it's going to be Del Rio in a rematch.
I'll just go out on a limb and throw out a flyer. It's been talked about a little bit. Ryback versus Jericho. Otherwise, maybe you would get Ziggler versus Jericho. Any number of possibilities. @KJ Bacane, do you think the Punk Rock feud somewhat represents pro wrestling versus sports entertainment?
Not really. Just for the fact that Rock was in the Attitude Era, and now you got Punk in the PG era, as it were. But I don't really think it's pro wrestling against sports entertainment so much.
Yeah, because frankly, aren't they technically both classified as sports entertainers?
Yeah.
I get what the question is trying to hint at. I think it's more of a representation of Attitude Era versus the PG era wrestling back then, wrestling now, than it is pro wrestling versus sports entertainment. @Anthony_Rizzuti, my boy from the Bleacher Report, who absolutely hates Kobe Bryant and clearly fully understands that Michael Jordan is easily the greatest basketball player of all time. Which wrestlers, past or present, would you compare each member of the Shield to? Let's start with Dean Ambrose.
Dean Ambrose, I think he's got a little bit of Piper in him, I think. And you could also compare him to like a Brian Pillman, probably.
Yeah, especially on the mic. He's got a little bit of a hybrid there. You said his in-ring style is kind of unique. His in-ring style reminds me of Piper's a little bit, kind of a brawler, kind of herky-jerky, and I kind of like it. Roman Reigns, maybe Scott Hall, a big, tall guy that the ladies really seem to like, just kind of oozes that certain type of machismo.
Right.
That's a hell of a comparison for Roman Reigns. And I'm sorry, Seth Rollins to me, Jeff Hardy.
Yeah.
I don't see what's so wrong with that, but some of them out there disagree. @Banging Tits, who is the best president of the United States? I wish you would have asked me who is the worst or the most overrated or underrated. When you look at Mount Rushmore, the 4 presidents on there, you have Washington, you have Jefferson, you have Lincoln, you have Teddy Roosevelt. Who's the best? Every president has their flaws. You've had some that are greater than others. I'll go with George Washington because he was the first. And he set a lot of standards at the beginning, minus the part of not getting rid of slavery for another fucking 60, 70 years. Jerk. But probably George Washington. The last person we had that could have been a great president, but we were robbed of that, was JFK, and then probably RFK if he wouldn't have been assassinated back in '68. Um, most overrated, just to answer a question you didn't ask, most overrated of the modern era has to be Ronald Reagan. At Michael Hayden 19, who's the one wrestler you hate the most, past or present, and excluding Jeff Jarrett? Dino Bravo. What about you? Who's the wrestler you hate the most? Is it John Cena?
Oh, he ranks right up there, but I think you gotta. God. He's probably the wrestler I hate the most right now.
Well, we will go with that then. If you don't really have one that you hate above all the rest, though, for all times?
No.
Okay. All right, let's see here. At WrestleJunkie4L, who is the best diva of all time, Lita or Trish?
Well, Lita could do. I mean, she could do a lot of the spot monkey stuff, but I think Trish was actually better than her.
Trish for me as well. No disrespect to Lita. I just
Nope.
thought Trish was better. At Joel Statham 91, do you think Crimson is part of Aces and Eights, and who do you think is the higher power?
Is Crimson part of the Aces and Eights? He very well could be. As far as who the higher power is, it's probably got to be Eric Bischoff or. I'm thinking of a certain mid-card piece of Memphis monkey crap.
Crimson should have already been revealed as a member of Aces and Eights along with Gunner. It would have at least given this faction some type of steam, I think, at least a little bit. Who's the higher power? Boy, it sure looks like Eric Bischoff. I think the other person to be revealed yet still is D'Lo Brown. They may try and tell us that Bully Ray is the higher power, and maybe that'll be a turn that happens, let's say, at Lockdown. But until proven otherwise, I'll say Eric Bischoff's the higher power. At Adish_Nibber, what do you think Wade Barrett is lacking, if anything? And do you think he'll be a world champion within the next 2 years?
I don't know if he's really lacking anything. I mean, he can talk a little bit on the mic. He probably should have been a world champion already by now. So, I still stand by that statement. I think he will be.
If he's lacking anything, it's two things. It's one, being presented in a way that makes him seem like everybody else. He's a taller guy, yet they book him in a way that makes him look smaller. And the way he's supposed to be a street fighter, bare-knuckle fighter, and he's wearing wrestling trunks and wrestling boots. I don't care what even people in the business say. That's stupid. That's just dumb. So that's one thing. Probably the other thing, he's missing that real signature marquee feud or moment that would really help elevate him and truly, I think, establish him as the future guy. Because even with the Nexus stuff back in 2010, they were too busy losing. Damn it. He's not lacking a lot. I think he could get a little better in the ring. His promos are good. He's got good size. He's got a lot of what you would want, and especially the fact that he's freaking British. They should have a British world champion, and it seems like both WWE and TNA, they try to continue to grow their product in that market, but they don't put a British guy in their fucking main event scene like TNA with Magnus. It blows my mind. At Kyle Meredith 6. Whenever Jeff Jarrett decides to return to WWE and beats Undertaker at WrestleMania, what stipulation should they have?
How about if he doesn't beat Undertaker, he leaves the business completely?
Oh no, this is saying when Jeff Jarrett decides to return to WWE and beats Undertaker at WrestleMania, what stipulation should they have? You know what stipulation they should have, Kyle Meredith 6? Would you like to know? It's called If That Happens, We Chop Your Balls Off match! Damn it. No, that'll never happen. That's the stipulation. We'll chop your balls off and put them in a jar for everybody to see on display. They'd be like, this is the day that Kyle Meredith 6 decided he was going to be funny and suggest that Jeff Jarrett would ever end the Undertaker streak at WrestleMania. At TNA 18244, do you think TNA will close the ratings gap to WWE this year?
In a word, no.
That's a very subjective thing because let's say WWE's audience or their rating was a 3.0 for on average for 2012, 3.1 whatever, and TNA's average was a 1.0 to a 1.1. Okay, if TNA gets up to a 1.2 in 2013 and WWE goes down to like a 2.8, they've closed a gap, but how much of a gap have they really closed? There's still a huge freaking valley between the two. So maybe they'll make some progress, but I don't think ratings necessarily should be a good indication. A lot of times we use that as a measure of success of the business, and it shouldn't be. Ratings gap, they're not going to close that. Nor should they be focused on it in 2013. They need to be focused on getting on the road more and making sure this new pay-per-view schedule works. At Tom Norton 1, do you think that WWE should only have one show a week and unify the World Heavyweight Championship and WWE Championship?
Well, I don't think they should have just one show a week, but as far as unifying the titles again, I think that would be a great idea.
Yeah, especially if they're not going to do dual brand live events anymore. You would have to think a unification of the belts would have to be forthcoming at some point. No, you don't want to have just one show a week. The problem is the number of shows they have is overwhelming, and it's just too much shit to watch and too much shit to keep tabs on and follow. Thank you, everyone that submitted your questions for this Q&A. Again, a reminder, if you want your questions answered on future OTRS Central Q&As, submit them on Twitter to our Twitter handle at Off the Rope Show. That information will be in the description box down below. I think you're going to be back for the next one, aren't you?
I think so.
Lucky people you are.